Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the New Year's Day edition of Today in Sports Betting. Happy New Year, everybody. Man, does it feel like 2021, Scott?
Well, kinda. Not really. I've still been working, so not much has really changed. But hopefully, I know both of us were successful in 2020 in terms of our bets. Hopefully, that carries over.
I agreed. And, truth be told, we're kind of like those people that go to the Price is Right and tape the Christmas episode in September.
Mm.
We are actually recording this on New Year's Eve about 6 o'clock Eastern time. So
Yep.
not quite New Year's Day for us yet, but we're pretending that it is. So let's take a look at these bowl games, Scott. We've got 4 bowl games today, 2 semifinals. Should be a fun day. Let's get up and running, shall we?
Yep.
Taking a look first at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl from Atlanta, 12 p.m. Eastern time, featuring the Cincinnati Bearcats and the Georgia Bulldogs. The dogs and cats are going at it here, Scott. Georgia -7. 52 is the total. Bulldogs had a few players opting out, four on defense, 1 on the offensive line. As far as I know right now, nobody of note is opting out for Cincinnati. So what do you got on this one, my friend?
I'm taking Cincinnati. I feel like a broken record. We've talked about opt-outs for teams pretty much the entire bowl game season, and it seems like teams that have opt-outs have gotten absolutely destroyed. Another example was today. I know both of us like San Jose State, but then reports came out about 20 minutes before game time that, 15 to something players ended up not playing, and they were also missing some coaches. So because of that, they were down 27-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know how you beat that, man. You put in the work, you give it your best effort, you make a guess based on what you got, and
then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, all the players that you actually liked, none of them are playing. So, enjoy. But that all came out about half an hour or so before game time, and they got killed. We talked about Houston, talked about Miami, talked about Florida. All these teams had in common is that they ended up losing players because of opt-outs and stuff like that, and they all lost. So for that reason, I think Cincinnati's going to win the game. I like them plus the points. Georgia, I understand, ended up finding a quarterback in JT Daniels about halfway through the year. Who have they played that's actually, shows that this team is pretty good? Because they beat up on the likes of Missouri, Vanderbilt, and company. Like, they haven't played anybody.
Well, now, in fairness, Missouri was a ranked team when they played.
That was nonsense. That was absolute nonsense. They beat Arkansas by 2 and somehow got ranked. It made absolutely no sense. That was just pure committee trying to pad the resume of the SEC teams, because that was nonsense. I think you can agree with that.
Well, it certainly surprised me.
So yes, Missouri was ranked, but they got smacked by Mississippi State. So I think we can all agree that ever since they ended up switching quarterbacks, they ended up putting in Daniels. He ended up playing against the likes of Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Missouri. Yeah, congrats, because those defenses aren't that good. So Cincinnati comes into this game. Of course, they're undefeated. They have not covered in each of their last 2 games, though. But Cincinnati's going to be motivated for this game. The committee basically screwed them the entire season. You make an argument they should have been pushing for a spot in the playoffs. They weren't going to get it, of course. But still, now they have to settle for a game against Georgia. You think Georgia cares about this game? They get to pad their resume against Cincinnati. They don't care. I know Cincinnati's going to treat this like a Super Bowl. So for motivation and the fact that Georgia's already had some people opt out, I expect more Georgia people to opt out. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Cincinnati plus the points and potentially a little sprinkle on the money line.
So now you're basing your cap on potential opt-outs?
Well, I'm saying that the current opt-outs that we have, what we've seen from a lot of teams is that when a couple people opt out, it's kind of a slippery slope, and it just turns into an absolute just domino effect, where some people opt out, and then you have more reports saying, wait a second, if they're playing, why are we playing? And that's what happened with Florida yesterday. You had a bunch of the wide receivers opt out, and then half the defense decided, wait a second, if they're not playing, why am I in this game? And they ended up opting out as well. So it would not surprise me if Georgia has a couple more people who just decide, you know what, I don't really want to be here. I think that wouldn't surprise me, but based on the current opt-outs in general, Kirby Smart in recent years hasn't exactly done a great job of motivating his players for bowl games when they're not in the playoffs. I'm going to lean to Cincinnati plus the points.
All right, well, let's play this game, Scott. Who is Cincinnati beating?
Cincinnati has beaten basically nobody, but they've looked good doing it. So we'll see what happens there. But
have they though? They've played two respectable teams. They played UCF and they played Tulsa. They struggled with both of those.
Well, SMU was also ranked, and they ended up smacking SMU. But
well,
yeah, Army was technically ranked, and they ended up beating Army.
SMU was in the they stood at the precipice of falling off the cliff for the
correct. And Army also, they beat by double digits, and Army wasn't very good. But if we're playing Missouri was ranked angle, then technically you have an argument for Cincinnati. But they haven't played many people.
What I would argue is Missouri is better than just about any team they faced, and that's not even the top of the SEC. I'm just saying you face better talent in the SEC every week. You have better talent on your team. I'm a big fan of JT Daniels, Scott.
He's good. I acknowledge that. I'm just saying he hasn't exactly faced great competition from defenses, so I think he might be a little bit overrated. Plus, I just think Bennett was awful. So I think that since Bennett was so bad, that automatically raised Daniels' stock, and you saw a quarterback come in. Wait a second, he could throw the ball 30-plus yards? This guy's amazing. I think he's good. It's just I think Cincinnati's defense will give him something to handle.
Well, okay, let's compare. JT Daniels, 67% completion ratio, 9 TDs, 1 interception, 10.4 yards per attempt. Bennett, 7.6 yards per attempt, 8 TDs, 6 picks, 55% completion.
Bennett's not any good.
And they scored.
It's not a secret.
They scored 16 more points behind Daniels than they do behind Bennett.
Yeah, so, doesn't surprise me.
It's not like I don't even think they can be compared. In Cincinnati, the one thing you have to admit is they haven't faced an elite quarterback yet. And I think that the talent Georgia, make no mistakes, guys, they've got as good a talent as anybody in the country.
I know that if you look at them on paper with all the 5-star recruits and everything, they should beat Cincinnati. I just have an issue with some people opting out and the fact that Georgia just didn't even get to play in a conference title game this year. You already have a couple people opting out. Cincinnati's definitely going to treat this game more seriously, in my opinion. I know you're not a fan of guessing on motivation and everything like that. I think you'll agree with me. Cincinnati has to be the more jacked up team for this game.
More than likely, but I think that, Georgia, there's a lot to that SEC pride. And, Kirby Smart wants to make sure that he goes out, make sure that he has job security. I don't think Georgia is as unmotivated as you put it forth. Okay, so let's do this. How many points do you put Georgia on in this game?
Truth, I think Georgia should be favored by around 3.5 or 4.
No, what do you put them on for a total? What do you think Georgia ends with on this?
Oh, they meant the spread.
Yeah.
I think that this game's going to go over. So I would probably lean to Georgia 28-24.
Okay. Well, that's right on the number, by the way. Is it still 52?
It's 51.5.
51.5. Okay, I had it written 52.
It'll be a sweat, but I think it'll go over.
All right. So I think a team that gives up points, that gave up a total of 57 to UCF and Tulsa put together, I think that's a team that's going to give up at least 31 to Georgia. And I'm not sure Cincinnati puts up more than 24 on this Dogs defense. I'm gonna fade you, buddy. I know it didn't work out with the Army game yet, although it's not done. But I'm gonna play Georgia -7 here.
That's fine. I just think it's 7.5. It's a matter of looking at Georgia and how this team has really just not been that impressive all year long. I know that they were winning games early. Of course, we talked about the quarterback and how they switched it and how that changed things. But how many serious dual threat quarterbacks has Georgia faced this year?
They haven't. And in fact, I had it in my notes that they haven't faced anybody like Desmond Ridder. There's no question about it. I
think the status of Dokes is important because he's currently banged up, and he, of course, is a very solid running back for Cincinnati. But it's just a matter of, I think Fickell is pretty close to Kirby Smart in terms of coaching ability. That might sound like a really controversial opinion. I'm sure the SEC will be really bothered at me for saying that. I think Luke Fickell's tremendous. I've said it for years. I think Kirby Smart is good, but in big games, he tends to shrink, if I'm being completely honest. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, I'm not sure. We're going to talk later about a head coach that I really believe shrinks in big games, and
it's not Nick Saban. I'll tell you that much.
It's not Nick Saban, correct? It's I think I don't know. I don't know if it's a matter of Kirby Smart shrinking or just
the competition they face is so great that it's
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So
That's fair. I'm just going to take the point Cincinnati.
right, good enough.
Truth is, I'm rooting for Cincinnati anyway. So
I don't hate you, and to be honest with you, I liked it a lot better at 7 than I do at 7.5.
yeah.
I'm kind of already out on that plank, but in reality, that's a much smaller play for me at 7.5.
7.5, I definitely enjoy it more.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, so let's take a look at the next one here, bud. It's the Verbo Camping World. It's a Verbo Citrus Bowl from Camping World Stadium. 1 p.m. Eastern time there from Orlando, Florida. Auburn against Northwestern. Northwestern -4, 43.5 is the number here. Scott, after getting torched by Ohio State, is Northwestern defense a paper tiger, or is Ohio State just that good?
I can't say they got torched by Ohio State. They only gave up 22 points. I know that they ended up running for at least 300 and something yards with Trey Sermon, and I know that Ohio State was also missing a bunch of people because of COVID, but Northwestern hung in there. It was a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. I can't really criticize Northwestern for rolling over. Of course, they had a couple of really brutal turnovers late in the game, which basically clinched it. But I'm not going to roast Northwestern for hanging tough against a playoff team. I got to respect the effort they put in.
All right.
I'm assuming you agree.
Well, the Tigers going to be missing their top receiver. They're going to be missing their change of pace back. It's been reported but not confirmed they're going to be missing their starting cornerback and safety. Here's the big one, Scott. Freshman running back, arguably maybe the best freshman running back in the country, Tank Bigsby. He is sort of AWOL right now. He was not happy with Gus Malzahn getting let go.
I don't know why he would be unhappy with that, because Malzahn has underachieved there for years. But
that's neither here nor there. But the fact remains that he hasn't been happy, and the interim coach didn't exactly put those fears to rest as they asked him about his status, and he says, "We're working on that." So
that's just a good line right there. I respect that.
They said, "We're working on it. He's had a great season, blah, blah, blah. He's got a great future." But
that's just funny. I'm sorry. That's just a great quote. That's such a good quote. That's a quote that Mike Leach would say.
Yeah, that's a very Leachy type of quote. Agreed. So the question is then, what do you like about this Auburn team? Because I think we both agree we don't like Bo Nix.
I don't like Bo Nix, but you also compare him to the quarterback across. Am I really a fan of him either? Not really. I think.
Who is it? Can you name him?
Yeah, it's Ramsey.
Okay.
I know who it is. I'm just saying that I don't think he's very good. Plus, at least Nix, even though he's not a good thrower, he actually has a lot of mobility, sometimes to his own detriment, because he just looks at one receiver and then panics and sprints forward into three people. But Ramsey is just a statue back there. I know that you can make an argument maybe a little bit he has some mobility on a read option or two just to keep the defense off guard. Not really. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's okay. But I watched him against Michigan State. Not pretty. I'll tell you that much. I know the Bo Nix isn't great, but if there's one thing that he is, he's a competitor. And you know that even though he's not the most talented quarterback in the world, he's a guy who's he's gonna leave it out on the field. And I know that there's a huge cliche that you hear sometimes.
Lord, are you getting paid by the cliche?
I think you can agree with that though. That Nix does fit that like Ellinger mold, where you can tell that this team might be down 30, but he's gonna go down swinging. I think you'll agree with that.
Okay.
Doesn't really mean much, but I think you can agree that. Do you think Nix is better than Ramsey? I think it's close.
I think it's really close. You know, you give Nix a lot of credit for being a dual threat. I don't think he does either one of them well.
He's somewhat fast, but he's got no vision at all.
He runs the ball a lot. He's got 98 carries, averages 3.6 yards per carry, Scott.
Once again, that also includes sacks.
I understand, but a good running quarterback is certainly going to be over 5 and probably closer to 6.
Yeah, correct. So now, if I really had to look at this matchup here, I'm leaning under. It's at 43.5. It's low, but I can't take the over here. Both offenses were bad to begin with. Now Auburn might be missing their best running back and a bunch of other players on their team. I know that both teams might be missing defensive players, but can either of these quarterbacks actually throw the ball more than 30 yards? I have no faith in that. So for that reason, I'll take the under. I think this will be a very, very hideous 20-17 type of game.
I'm with you. This is going to be this is going to be one where you're glad there's another game on at the same time.
I'm leaning Auburn plus the points because I don't want to lace 4 with Northwestern, because we've been talking a lot about how Auburn's missing a decent amount of people. Northwestern might be missing a decent amount of people as well. So I'm not really going to throw Auburn under the bus for everything that's happened so far with all the people opting on the new coach, because Northwestern could be missing a bunch of people. So in whether it's the COVID Bowl, the opt-out bowl, whatever you want to call it, I'll take the points.
All right, very good. I've got a premium on the side. I agree with you on the under. I think that is the play in this game. So,
yep.
All right, moving on to the granddaddy of them all, Scott. It is the Rose Bowl. Notre Dame and Alabama. Alabama 19.5-point favorites right now.
I love seeing the Rose Bowl with no Big Ten team and no Pac-12 team. What a time, right?
Good times.
Used to be the staple.
This is 65.5 is the number right there. You know, if you'd asked me about this a month ago, after Notre Dame had just beat Clemson, I might have thought this would be some kind of a competitive game. But after I saw what the adjustments did to Notre Dame and how Brian Kelly responded to those adjustments with the offensive game plan, that's a coach I think that the moment gets too big for him and they don't make good adjustments on the fly based on game situation. Clemson was able to adjust their defense. They were able to keep Book in the pocket, not let him get outside. They concentrated more on rushing outside the B gaps, put up some exotic blitzes, and absolutely confounded this Notre Dame defense, or offense, rather. You think Saban might have been taking notes?
I think it's safe to say he was. For the record, when you said there's a coach that you're going to be talking about later who shrinks in these moments, I think we all knew who you were talking about.
Okay, all right, so it's not a big reveal.
No,
okay.
Not at all. I wasn't sure what was more convincing: Notre Dame losing by 30 in the semifinals a couple years ago, or losing almost every other big game they have by 30 plus.
Yeah,
it's kind of a tough one, but no, Notre Dame's been one of those teams that is a lot of reputation, a lot of bark, not really much bite over the last. I don't know. When was Lou Holtz there? 20-something years ago?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I feel like it's kind of.
No, you're not. They
made it to a title game with Manti Te'o, lost by about 40. But, congrats. You made it to the big game that you probably didn't deserve to make it to. So, congrats, I guess.
Other than the offensive side of the ball, Notre Dame had no answer for the rush this time. They had no answer for Etienne. He went 10 times for 124. And more importantly, Scott, just like Ohio State in the second half last year, had no answer for Trevor Lawrence. Absolutely zero, as they made him and his wheels part of the offense, and he ended up carrying it 14 times for 90 yards. So not good. And I guarantee you that this Alabama team can do everything on offense that Clemson can do, with the exception of with the running quarterback. I don't think Mac Jones has the wheels that Trevor Lawrence has, but I think they have better receivers. I think they're very close to similar in running backs. Who do you think is better there?
Are you about with Harris and Etienne?
Yeah,
I'm not an Etienne fan. I've said it for years. I think he's the most overrated running back in the country.
Really? I thought he was top 5 back last year. I don't think he's had a great year this year.
He was on my college fantasy team last year. I know that he's talented. I just think that he is highly, highly overrated. And this year, he hasn't really done much.
Okay.
So,
all right. So
don't get me wrong. He's good. It's just, I think that people expect him to be this ridiculous first-round running back kind of guy, and he's just not. But he's fine. So I like Harris a lot.
Let's cut to the chase here, bud. Is there any reason to think Alabama can't cover this ridiculous number?
The defense, because it's awful.
It's not awful.
It's not good. It's not a good defense. And giving up 40-plus to Florida in the game. I know Florida's a good offense. I get it. But the last time I saw Alabama play defense, they gave up 40-plus. I know that Alabama should win this game, and there's no way in hell I'm picking Notre Dame on the money line. But covering 19.5 is a lot when you're not getting many stops. And Alabama might be able to get some stops against Notre Dame. I think they probably should, because I think Ian Book has had a good year. Still not the biggest Book guy, but I do acknowledge he has made massive strides so far this season. and he'll probably get drafted as a result. But looking at this matchup here, I'm going to hold my nose and take the points with Notre Dame. I'm not thrilled with it because I really don't like Notre Dame at all.
Okay.
Not because of the team. I just mean just the actual university. I'm just not a fan of them.
Okay.
But I think it's a lot of points. And I think that Bama should win this game by double digits, but I do think that 19.5 is a lot because Notre Dame, they can run the ball well. Ian Book's, I'd say, good enough to keep this game within 20. And I actually like Notre Dame's defense. I think Notre Dame's defense is pretty good. Are they going to get many stops? No, but I think they'll get a couple. So for that reason, I think Alabama wins by 17.
Okay.
I like the over, though, in this game. I'm not taking the under with Bama, I'll tell you that much.
Right. Yeah, I've got a premium on the total, and
I like the total more than the side, but I'll take the over with the Bama Notre Dame game, and I'll take Notre Dame. Hold my nose. I'm not going to actually bet it, but I'll lean Notre Dame.
And I feel the same way about Alabama. I'll fade you. I'll hold my nose and play Alabama minus the points.
I mean, if this was like 16.5, I would take Bama, but 19.5 is up there. I'm not going to force it because you're in the middle of no man's land now, and 19.5, you're just going to wait for it to go to 20.5 and call it a day. Right?
Good enough.
I do agree that leading up to the game, nobody's going to be betting on Notre Dame. I'm expecting just maybe a big bets here.
Notre Dame has a Yankees-like backing, like Yankees, Dodgers. There's always.
I think Bama does too. I think those cancel each other out, and you're going to have a lot of just unloading for New Year's. All the public's going to be on Bama. I think we can agree.
I don't know that that number's not going to scare them, Scott.
I think the number will climb to around 20 or 20.5. I think 20 probably tops, but.
Okay, yeah, you might get to 20 because 19.5 is a weird number. It's probably
but I'll take Notre Dame plus.
Okay. All right, last one, Scott. All-State Sugar Bowl down there from New Orleans, down there in the Dome, Ohio State. And Clemson minus 766.5.
You have the feeling of deja vu? I feel like these teams played just last year in the same semifinal situation.
I understand. I have a feeling of deja vu every time we have the playoffs, Scott.
That definitely makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way.
Like 3 of the 4 teams are always there.
It's like the coma meme where the person like wakes up 4 months later. Like, I can't wait to see this. It's just like a year later. Yeah, I can't wait to see Bama and Clemson in the title game. So yep, it still applies. It's been 20 years. Still applies.
Yeah, you're still most likely going to get Bama and Clemson. So let's talk about that just a little bit. It's are they making too big of a deal of the Dabo comments about and him voting them out of the top 10? Is that just something for the media to chew on for a couple of weeks, or you think there's really anything there? You think Day is using that as some kind of additional inspiration, as if they didn't have enough for Ohio State?
I think every little bit helps, but I think I think about 98% of the bulletin board just reads they beat us last year.
Right.
And I think that's enough motivation as it is. So maybe it'll provide a little bit of a spark there. Truth is, I actually agree with Dabo. You can't say that publicly before you face the team you're going to play. But I do agree. Ohio State has played, what, like 6 games?
Yeah.
I think Dabo's right. I think 13 or whatever number he had is a little bit low. I'd still have him in the top 10. But I do agree. I don't think they're worthy of being a playoff team, in my opinion, based on who they've played and all the games that have gotten canceled and stuff like that. Plus the Big Ten, can we acknowledge has been probably one of the most disappointing conferences in all of college football this year? Top to bottom. I know the Pac-12 was bad, but truth is I feel like a lot of people expected the Pac-12 to be a bit down. Big 12, you make an argument.
Pac-12 are almost a group of 5 at this point.
Correct. So Big Ten had a bunch of preseason ranked teams. You thought, this conference can be really good. Michigan's awful. Penn State's awful. Minnesota's awful. Wisconsin's awful.
Yeah.
The biggest surprise was Indiana.
Of course.
Michigan State was terrible as well. Like, a lot of these normal faces just weren't good.
Indiana and Northwestern, man. That was
and Iowa. I'll give Iowa props.
In Iowa, correct. Yeah, that was pretty much the class of the division to go along with Ohio State.
That's it.
So does a year make a difference? Does Clemson, are they hitting on all cylinders, Scott? Is that game that they played, is that ACC championship game where they dominated Notre Dame, is that a harbinger of things to come, that they've got it going in the right direction, or is that just a matter of happen to have Notre Dame's number and making the adjustments after that first game?
Well, I kind of think you can't really have one or the other. I think they're not mutually exclusive. I think that Clemson, of course, was motivated to beat the crap out of Notre Dame after they got embarrassed. Or if you can call embarrassed as losing on the road in double overtime. But I guess you can say that because they're expected to win every game they play. But they ended up getting back on track. I think the bigger issue is the loss of the offensive coordinator. Now, people are going to be talking about the bulletin board stuff with Dabo. The bigger deal is the fact that Clemson's going to have a new play caller because their offensive coordinator got COVID. So he's not playing, or he's not going to be coaching, I should say.
Right.
So I think that's the bigger deal. Is it going to matter? No. I don't think it really matters that much. Now, I know that a lot of people, the public, I'm sure, is going to love Ohio State because they're going to see a rematch, a team of Ohio State stature getting 7.5.
It's a revenge angle.
Yeah, I think this line will come down. I think it'll probably close at around 6.5, give or take. I think it'll be dancing around 7 leading up to the game. But in this matchup here, I like Clemson. I think Ohio State, to be honest, is not very good. I think, of course, that they are still a very talented team. Is the defense any good? Just being honest.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really know. I mean, they shut down Northwestern.
Congratulations.
Right.
You know also shut down Northwestern? Michigan State.
Right. Yeah, that's Michigan. We've talked about that. Northwestern certainly has had their struggles putting the biscuit in the basket. So
they gave up 35 to Indiana and 27 to Rutgers. What am I really proud of here? I know that they had one special teams touchdown in the Rutgers game, but still, you'll get Clemson. This defense has been very solid lately. They've been up 17 or fewer points each of the last 3 games. Truth is, I'm kind of surprised by the over money in this spot. I know that it's going up from 64 to 68 or so. I like the under. I'm really confused why the total is going up so much. Now, I'm sure a lot of us do with Ohio State. Now they just think, oh, Clemson will score 40-plus and Ohio State will chip in. I think this total's too high. I like the under. I think this game will be close for a little while. I see 35-24, 34-24. I like the under.
Okay.
You have any thoughts on that, or that's a premium for you?
What's that?
You have any thoughts, or that's a premium for you?
Premium is going to be on the side. I had the over at 66.5.
I want to hear from your angle. Why do you like the over?
Because I think at this point in the season, as we've seen in bowl season, with the shortened amount of games that were played, I think offenses are still ahead of the defenses. I think it's like when you come out of spring training, pitchers are ahead of hitters, and I think it's that way in the postseason. The offenses appear to be able to do things that the defenses don't have enough reps to stop. And I think you've got 2 high-powered offenses here that should be able to not score at will, but certainly score enough to take it over the total. That's kind of my thought process.
And let me ask you a question here. It's going to be a pretty broad question, but I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. What do you think of Justin Fields?
Not much.
I'm in the same boat.
Not a fan.
I think he's fine, but I think that the idea that he's a top 5 pick is ludicrous to me.
Yes, I think he showed that last week against Northwestern,
or whenever the hell they play.
Or obviously not last week, but yeah, the last game.
They were missing a decent amount of receivers there. I do acknowledge that, but I watched Justin Fields play, and he has faced how many really good defenses so far this season, or even above average defenses this year?
Yeah, I know. I
mean, you go through the list, and you have the Indiana game, and you have the Northwestern game. Because Michigan State, not very good. Rutgers, I respect what Schiano's doing, but of course they're not very good. Penn State, very underwhelming. Nebraska's a joke. So you go through those. They played Indiana and Northwestern, and they did score 42 against Indiana. Fields has had multiple interceptions in both those games. He's just not, I'd say, smart with the football. His read progressions are just a disaster. Do you agree with that? Because I feel like he just forces balls.
He doesn't run through his progressions well. His eyes are terrible. He gets locked, and it enables the safeties to close quicker than they should be able to because he's locked in on the target. There's very little deception about where he's going with the football.
Now, I will give him a tremendous amount of props for his mobility. He is one of the fastest players on the field. He is an absolute just speedster, and I will give him props for that.
Yep.
But Clemson kind of what they did with Book. You got to assume they're just going to keep him in the pocket and dare him to beat them with his arm. And I'm looking at props. If I could find it, I'll slam Fields to throw an interception. He's going to throw at least one. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that as well.
So the question is, when you're talking about a total that's in the high 60s, do I trust a quarterback who I think is going to have issues with his reads and force some balls that might kill some drives? And the answer is no. I like the under. And I think that Clemson losing an offensive coordinator might not have that big of an impact, but it could.
Okay.
So I think that based on that news and the fact that I just don't think that highly of Justin Fields, he should be a first-round pick. He just shouldn't be a top 5 guy. I think that I have to like the under. So for that reason, I'll lean to the under.
All right, good enough.
Did I sway you at all, or you still like the over?
No, I am. I am swayed, and I haven't done my standalone video on this. Like I said, I got a premium locked up. I know what I want to do for a premium, and that's definitely on the side. But yeah, that's that and the line move.
I don't get the constant. It's like, oh yeah, Clemson's down their offensive coordinator. Cool. People slam money towards the over.
Yeah,
am I missing something?
I think there's a possibility that Clemson defense may be good enough to shut down Fields, because the Northwestern unit certainly was, and I'm not sure. I think the Clemson and the Northwestern unit probably pretty similar.
Of course, Clemson has the better athletes.
Yeah, they're gonna have a little more size. They're gonna have a little more athleticism, but they just gave up 22. And in fact, but we did talk about that they went for 399 yards on the ground. So it's not like Northwestern shut them down. But
well, the point I'm trying to say is that if Fields does struggle again, now I know that Olave didn't play, for example, and he's a tremendous receiver, so they were not at full strength. If Ohio State decides to embrace this run-first philosophy, if Fields struggles early, it's a lot of running clock right there for 68 points.
Yeah, you're right. And they are going to want to run the clock.
They should.
They're going to want to run the football. They're going to want to shorten this game and limit the opportunities of Trevor Lawrence to be on the field and beat them.
Yeah, so I like the under.
All right, I might be convinced, bud. I'll have to sit now. Now I have to put my video together, and if I put together the video and come down on the under, then the people are going to get mad at me because I've taken two different sides. So,
and if the over comes out, then it's a double whammy for you. So we'll see
I win regardless.
So you lose regardless.
I will.
I don't know. Anyway, you can think about that behind closed doors, but I just think this total at first glance is way too high.
All right. And as it stands right now, I'll still have a slight lean. I need to take another look at this. And with the line movement going up, I may advise everybody to wait and see if we can get more out of this and play the under.
We'll see.
All right.
But for the sake of the side, by the way, sorry to interrupt. For the sake of the side, once again, I'll lean Clemson -7. I would probably wait. I do think this will potentially go to 6.5. I do think you'll see some late Ohio State money, but I'll lean Clemson.
All right, good enough. All right, my friend. Happy New Year to you.
Yep, you too.
And of course, Happy New Year to everybody out there in I was going to say in radio land, but everybody out there in YouTube land. We appreciate you guys checking us out. Hoping everybody's having a great New Year's Day. And of course, if you're looking for more information on these games, don't forget to stop and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Deep dives into every game going on in America every single day over there at Winners and Whiners. So get yourself over there and check that out. All right. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Whiners, appreciate you guys watching today. Don't forget to give us the like and subscribe. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money to start the year. And we'll see you tomorrow on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.